Welcome everyone to a new episode here of Veterans Talk. Before we get going, I'd once again like to thank Francis Marion for everything that they're doing by putting these shows out so we can get this information out to our veterans in the neighborhood. And I'd also like to thank the County Council also for letting us do this. Before we get going, let me make a few announcements. On May the 25th at the National Cemetery, we're going to have a flag day. That's the Boy Scouts are going to go out into the cemetery there and they're going to put flags up on most of the grave sites there at the cemetery. Right. So if you want to come out and support them on that day, that's May the 25th at 9 o'clock. On May the 27th, which is Memorial Day, they're going to have the Veterans Memorial Service there at the cemetery. So if you want to come out and participate in that, that's going to be at 10 o'clock at the cemetery once again. Also on the 27th, the widows and widowers are having a banquet for support of their organization. For information on that, you can contact Carolyn McMillan at 843-665-4881. And any of this information or phone numbers or anything that get put out on today's show, if you don't get them right then, you can always go to www.florencecountyveteranaffairs.com and get any of the information that we're putting out, and also different shows that have been aired earlier. Well, today we got a special guest. We got Dave Phillips here, a friend of mine. Both of us is LST sailors, but two different generations. But before we get talking about our LST days, we're going to talk a little bit about the World War II monument that's going to be put up at the cemetery.
I hope it will be soon.
Yeah, hopefully soon,
yes.
Hopefully soon.
And this is a pamphlet on the World War II monument that we're handing out. And in fact, handing out, have applied for space at the next race at the Darlington track to have space to hand out pamphlets on the World War II monument. And this is the pamphlet, and there's a little about Alex Palkovich, the sculptor, and he's the gentleman that did the eagle.
He also did the home safe, didn't he?
The home safe, yeah. Right. And there's a little in here about the designer, Michael Bowes from Winona Lake, Indiana, and he has worked with us, coming through a friend that's also on the World War II Monument Committee, Bill Jellison.
Right. He's done a lot of work on
Yes, he has.
Yes, he has.
And the one thing we want to stress about this pamphlet is we call it Share Your Letters. Now, the history books will tell us about World War II, but the real story is in letters that were written home by the participants.
That's right.
And we're asking the public to write those letters, send those letters, and they will be judged. In fact, Dr. Scott Kaufman and Dr. Venters here at Francis Marion, they will be in charge of judging the letters, and 4 of them will be chosen, and they will be on bronze plaque at the 4 corners of the World War II monument when it's erected.
Well, that's a good
so,
thing.
If you want to honor your granddaddy or your uncle or husband, letters from overseas, send them to us. And the address on that is to Post Office Box 12393, Florence, South Carolina, 29504. So we really want to get those letters in because they will mean so much to that veteran that was overseas that time, and what they wrote home about.
And the first on that address is the Veterans Council, the address, and then at Florence, South Carolina.
Right.
And while we're talking real quick, let me mention something here about the Veteran Council that we had that came up here recently. The Veteran Council gave away their very first Veteran of the Year, Civilian of the Year, and Organization of the Year awards this year. Our Veteran of the Year was C.B. Anderson, which anybody that does anything with veterans knows about all the stuff that he's involved with the veterans. And our Organization of the Year was the Honor Guard, which the Honor Guard did over 300 and something funerals last year, and they're all volunteers. And if anybody would like to help support the Honor Guard, maybe join the Honor Guard and help them with that, please do so. Once again, their information's on the website, FlorenceCountyVeteranAffairs.com. And the civilian of the year was Dr. Murphy right here from Francis Marion College. And he is not only involved in this community a lot with our veterans, but with also the civilian sector. And we just want to let him know, and the students that he brings with him, how much we appreciate him.
Great.
All right, and now you were also talking, the theme of the World War II monument is about writing letters home, correct?
Right. And go to our website. It's Florence, WW with the numeral 2.org. And that's our website. It's, I have to say, because I didn't do it, it's a very good website, and it will tell you all about the World War II monument and what we're doing and hope to accomplish. And the fundraising campaign on that monument will start any day now, hopefully by the end of this week. And the hold up, the problem, well, it's not a problem, it's getting the television commercial ready to go.
Okay, but y'all got a very special guest going to help promote that, correct?
Oh, yes.
And
in fact, the speaker, and we have named him honorary chairman of the World War II Monument Committee. The speaker in that commercial is Cale Yarborough. And we're
very known well in this area. Yes,
yes, very well. And also, of course, also a member of the committee is Rocky Gannon, a familiar name, and Judy Jones, and her husband is head of the Marine Corps League.
And the commander of the Veteran Council.
Right, right. And of course,
yes.
Mr. Randy Godbold and Bruce Malik. He's a U.S. Army Special Forces and a retired substitute instructor for the Florence City Schools. Mm-hmm. And Carlos Washington is a member of our committee. He's a veteran of the U.S. Army and the former assistant chief of the Florence Fire Department. Mm-hmm. And also our former mayor, and he's on our committee. And you know, Mayor Willis, he was the moving force 6 or 7 years ago to build the Veterans Park. And he deserves a lot of credit for really getting it off the ground.
Yes, very much involved.
Yes.
But you and Bruce, right? And you were the cornerstones for this monument. Y'all have put in a lot of work. Basically, the only thing I do is just go to a meeting here and there and say, okay, what y'all got going on now? But y'all are definitely the cornerstone.
Yeah, my friend Bill Jellison,
yeah.
You know, you always got a head man, but then you got the man that does the work.
Yes.
That's Bill
That's
Jellison.
Bill. That's Bill.
Yeah.
Bill's doing all the work, yeah. And he's doing a really good job, too.
He sure is.
He worked in TV and stuff here for a while, didn't he? Or radio?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yes.
He was with me at WWII radio in Dillon station, and then we sold it. And he went with Channel 13 for, I think, 14 years, I believe, until he retired. So,
well, maybe y'all can give me some pointers. Well, now so we were both on LSTs, and I know there's a lot of difference between the two of them. How about how old were you when you joined the Army or the Navy? I'm sorry.
Well, I finished high school in Heath Springs, South Carolina, a little town south of Lancaster. And 5 days after graduating high school, I reported to the Navy at Bainbridge, Maryland.
Oh, okay.
I was 18.
Oh, you were 18
I was
then?
18 then.
Now, did they have regular boot camp like they do today, or how did they do that? How long did you have to go to boot camp for?
It was 13 weeks.
13 weeks?
And then I stayed at Bainbridge for my radio school. I was a dit radioman aboard ship.
So you had to sit there and listen to that did it all day?
Yeah.
That was the way. Didn't have cell phones back then, did we?
No.
No,
Oh,
no.
gosh, no.
And they actually wrote letters, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
And that's the ones that we need too, by the way. So make sure you get them letters into us so we can get them put around that monument. Now, isn't there some other markers that's going to go around the monument on the outside?
Yes,
Around
and
there?
in fact, let me show you. This is where
So the monument's going to
the
sit like
monument
this.
will be, and this is the sidewalk coming from the waterfall,
Right.
and this is the sidewalk from the Eagle Monument, and it will be in that corner, and this is a curving, so you can see the back and the front, and then there will be several bronze plaques depicting, of course, starting with Pearl Harbor.
So it'll have it like you walk around and get
Yeah.
the history of World War II while you walk around the monument.
Right.
Very good.
As
very
I say,
good.
starting with Pearl Harbor, the Battle of the Bulge and all, and then ending with the signing of the peace treaty on the Missouri.
Yes, I've been on there.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. When they recommissioned it, I was stationed in Long Beach, California.
Wow.
Well, it was that in New Jersey, and Iowa, and a couple of them there. But now, how long did it took my LST a long time to get across the ocean. How long did it take yours?
Well, we picked up the 664 I served on in Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay.
It was built by American Bridge at Ambridge, and we brought it down the river, and there were 8 ships called a flotilla, had our shakedown together in the Gulf of Mexico. 7 of them got orders to go to San Diego. They went to the Pacific. The 664 went to Norfolk, and we went to the Mediterranean. And let me tell you, being in the radio room, you had access to every ship in the Navy. 1 year later, we searched the rolls, and every one of those 7 ships that we had a shakedown together with went to the Pacific, had been scratched,
No.
been sunk.
Been sunk, all
Yep.
except, so y'all are the only ones that was
Yeah.
left, wasn't it? And you said back then they were numbered, they didn't have names like they do today.
Oh,
Y'all
they were turning out LSTs so fast, they didn't bother anything, just numbering them.
just numbering them.
And mine was a 664.
Yeah.
And after the war, they did start naming them. In fact, the one you served on probably was named.
It was named after Fresno. That was
Okay.
named LST 1182,
Right.
Fresno. And then they were named after cities, I guess. is
Yeah.
What they were.
Well, we went in convoy. There must have been a couple of hundred ships in that convoy that left Norfolk, and our first stop was Oran, North Africa. And then that's where it really broke up, and everyone went their separate ways. And we worked out of Bizerte, North Africa, and then moved up to Palermo, Sicily, and then Naples, Italy, and along the way, our last port to work out of was Leghorn, Italy. And after the southern France landing, and I have a picture here of us.
That's
After
the one where y'all went to the beach where Napoleon was at?
Oh yeah, they after the southern France landing, they sent us down to the island of Elba, where Napoleon was exiled. Okay. And of course, there were 5 of us on Liberty that day, and we saw what they told us was Napoleon's private beach. Napoleon swam in that little beach. Well, we were feeling just good enough that we just had to go swimming in Napoleon's private beach.
They didn't need to tell no boy from South Carolina about that, did they?
So we, of course, we were there in our uniforms. So we took our uniforms off and went swimming
in your skivvies.
In our skivvies, and came out, and
so that's all. And you say this is you here?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And we took our skivvies off and put our uniforms on, and sold our skivvies to some ladies standing by for $5 a pair. So,
Oh. I couldn't get $5 for mine now if I tried.
here after the Southern France, we were on Liberty in Marseille, and I was walking down the street by a shop, a beauty shop, and I saw this pretty lady in there working, so I motioned her out, and she took a picture with us, you know.
Okay, well, you better make sure, hope your wife don't watch this show.
Oh,
right?
she after 58 years, she's
okay with it. I mean, did it take 50 for her to get okay first, though?
Yeah.
All right. So now you were saying once you were that you had went to, also y'all went to what's it, Malta.
Malta.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Well, most people remember that Churchill and Roosevelt and Stalin had a conference at the island of Yalta. But couple of weeks before that, FDR and Churchill had a conference on the island of Malta. And they sent us down there to actually be a hotel for some of the guests. And we stayed a week there. And that's the one time in my 3 years in the Navy that I volunteered for something. And I was accustomed to guns, you know, growing up in South Carolina, you know, you got your first shotgun at 12 years old. Right. So I volunteered for guard duty, and I rode in the Jeep behind Churchill and Roosevelt and Stalin as they went from their hotel to their meeting place. And I rode in the Jeep behind them with my submachine gun, the Thompson, you know, you're familiar with the old Thompson. But that's the one time I volunteered for something.
That's one time you volunteered for something. And now you also, after you was, that was, how did you get back to the States?
Well, of course, I was at the Anzio landing and the Southern France landing. And Marshal Tito of Yugoslavia and the British were arguing, is it Trieste, Yugoslavia, or Trieste, Italy? So they loaded us up to 664 with some men and equipment, and we went up to Trieste to settle that argument as to whose it was. And we did, and we were still there in June of 45, and the word came down that they needed radiomen in the Pacific. So my orders read, proceed to the States for immediate duty in the Pacific. So they flew me from Trieste to Oran, North Africa, and then put me on a little ship to come home.
Ship, what kind of little ship was that again?
A YMS, a yard mine sweeper.
And it was at Wood?
It had no business being out in the open ocean, that little thing. Oh, that was 14 days of
misery, wasn't it? I'm telling you, yeah. Because I think if they were like the minesweepers are when I was in, they were wooden.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
But we sailed in the New York harbor by the Statue of Liberty at 7:10 in the morning, July the 4th. There you go. I still get goosebumps talking about it. What a sight for a young 20-year-old kid headed for Japan or the Pacific. But I got my 30 days leave. I went to New Orleans to catch the ship over, and they dropped a big bomb, and I had enough points to get out.
Yeah.
And
that's something new that I have never heard of before, the points. What exactly was that about?
It was a formula. You got so many points for your month in service, so many points for your months overseas, etc. And they, I forget how many you had to have, but I had enough points to get out. So the day I was to board ship to go to the Pacific at 1 o'clock, I walked my orders around the base, and I got the last signature allowing me to stay ashore at 11 o'clock.
Oh.
So,
Right, you had 2 hours to spare.
yeah. But they let me stay in New Orleans and party from August the 6th until the 13th of December.
And how old were you then?
20.
20. 20 years old in New Orleans. I bet
Yeah.
you had a good time, didn't you?
Oh, my wife might be listening.
Yeah, we don't want to get. I don't want to see you in the paper tomorrow morning. All right.
Oh.
All right. Well, Dave, is there anything else that we need to get out here before we get going, or?
Well, that about covers it. I served. I'm glad I did. It was a great experience. As they said back then, I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't do it again for $2 million.
There you go.
But back then, you know, I finished high school in Heath Springs, South Carolina, in June of '43, and 5 days later I reported to the Navy, because that's what you did. And my graduating class, of course, that's a small town, was 43 people, 39 girls and 4 boys in my graduating class.
Now, you said the war was already going on when you
Oh, yeah.
graduated, correct?
Yeah.
And how many brothers and sisters did you have altogether?
There were 10 of us.
And how many of them served?
Well, I had one brother who finished Clemson in '42, and that's his picture.
Okay.
And he went and overran North Africa, across North Africa, and he'd write home such things as, "It's been 5 weeks since I changed pants. David, you get in the Navy." So I did. But one of my sisters, there were 6 of them, was a nurse at Walter Reed Hospital at the beginning of the war. She was volunteering over at the Red Cross, and she tells that the Red Cross official called the nurses in one day and said, "Okay, girls, which branch of service do you want to volunteer for?" So she chose the Navy.
Oh, okay.
And a younger brother served in Korea. But my oldest brother of the 4 boys was in an auto accident, and there were 4 men in that car that night, and 2 were killed, and my brother was made 4F. And you said that was a new term.
That was something else I'd never heard of. I didn't know what a 4F was.
4F.
So they had like different codes for
Yes,
people during that
yeah.
time, and if you were a certain thing, you wouldn't get drafted or whatever they were doing?
Right.
Yeah.
4F, you were not eligible.
Okay.
I know of one exception. A good friend of mine, in growing up all through school, was I.W. Bowers from Heath Springs. He was born with just one eye. He got in the service and served in the harbor defense of Boston Harbor
Oh, okay.
during the war.
Okay.
But that took some finagling. You know, he really
Right.
made an effort.
Oh, yeah.
And they finally allowed him to enter the Army and go on that shore defense of Boston Harbor with one eye. But if you were 1A or whatever, you know, that's where you went immediately.
You went immediately,
Yeah.
right.
And there were different classes. And in fact, my mother got very upset that I went down and joined the Navy on my 18th birthday because living on the farm, my brother was at Clemson, so I was the man of the house. I was running the farm. I could have gotten a deferment, but that wasn't the thing to do.
That wasn't a thing to do.
So on my 18th
What's the saying
birthday,
that they use? The proudest. What that the saying that's on the monument about the.
Oh yeah, they were just kids at the time,
Uh-huh.
but now they're called the greatest generation.
There you go. And we'll leave you today with that, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Thank you very much.